From the terrible ski accident in 2013 to the brain trauma he suffered, which put him in an induced coma, Michael Schumacher has been through a lot over the years. And now, Eddie Jordan has recently opened up about what it's really been like. After all, there's been a ton of mystery surrounding the Formula One legend. It all started with a terrible accident. All the way back in 2013, the 54-year-old's health has been wrapped up in all sorts of mystery. I get it though. His family has been pretty hesitant to talk about this because they want the German to live a peaceful and private life. Still, fans have been eager to know just how the legend has been doing. And this is exactly why when Eddie Jordan opened up. You see, Eddie is not only a fellow F1 great, but he's also been a really close friend to Michael. So coming from him, I'm guessing it's probably accurate. So we do know some basic things. For one, he did suffer severe brain trauma because of this accident. And then the doctors had to put him in an induced coma so he could recover. But in 2022, we got some new information that may not have been true.
I'm out in Austin. Lewis knew he had to win. And also, he wanted Red Bull to do him a favor or two.
Because basically, the former Ferrari boss Jean Todt said that the Formula One legend was doing well. Yep, he said that Michael was in the best situation he could be in. In fact, he was surrounded by people who loved him. That leaves you feeling positive, right? Everything is great and Michael is well and healthy. But that's not exactly true, it seems. I know this because Jordan gave an interview with OLBG.com recently. Eddie gave fans an update, particularly about how Michael's health was affecting his family. It seems that Mick, the 54-year-old son, is suffering a lot. Jordan mentioned that he felt a lot for poor Mick. According to him, it can't have been easy knowing that your father is not able to be a part of the family. Michael is there, but he's not there, were Eddie's exact words. But that's not all. Eddie also touched on Mick's own feelings at this point in his career. You see, things haven't been going so well for Mick. His father suffering such serious injuries aside, he was also dropped by Haas for the 2023 Formula One season. Actually, he lost his seat to the more experienced Nico Hülkenberg. Eddie said he's got his own views about this whole deal that he doesn't want to make public. But apparently, the F1 legend felt that Mick showed elating compassion.
A better spot and be solid in the midfield, if not going to the front of the midfield, which in a moment that's the best we can wish for.
In fact, the way he spoke about his father when the season wasn't going all that well for him, well, Jordan felt that it must have been tough going through all that at the same time. Though now, Mick has another big fight coming. He has to come back. He has to make his name. And he has to climb up that ladder once more. But don't worry, Eddie hasn't given up on the young man. In fact, he's quite sure Mick will do it. Yep, Eddie has faith. He also mentioned that this was probably the right thing that happened, but it still touched him. That makes sense, you know? After all, Michael means so much to him and he feels for his friend a lot. In fact, Jordan always went out of his way. He gave Michael his first chance in Spa, and that didn't last for a long time. But nevertheless, Eddie said that the love he feels for Michael still lasts. In fact, it will always do so while he's still able to draw breaths. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I definitely teared up. That was incredibly sweet. There were more details in this interview which shed light on the Schumacher family's life. Yep, he told us the real reason behind Mick's name. Apparently, he wasn't named after his dad like so many of us thought all his life. Jordan pretty much cleared the air on this topic. He revealed that the name actually had an Australian connection. You see, there's a little story behind this whole deal. So, according to Jordan, Mick was named after a person who his father admired. Michael was in total awe of this one sportsman. This guy won 5 world titles back-to-back with Honda. Can you guys guess who he was talking about? Well, it's actually none other than Mick Doohan. Makes sense, right?
And I'm winning to stay on top of the game was a hell of a lot easier than having to sort of finish second and going, I wish I would have.
I mean, it is kinda crazy that Michael was such a big fan of Doohan that he named his own son Mick as a mark of respect. But this one thing Todd mentioned really got everyone emotional. because apparently, last year he visited the 54-year-old at his home in Geneva almost thrice a week. I mean, that's quite a lot. One thing's for sure, Michael Schumacher definitely made some good friends in his time as a Formula One driver. I mean, Gene's really pulling on our heartstrings here. 'Cause you know what he said? As long as I'm in this world, I will always visit him. Oof. Not to mention, Todd has been in constant contact with the F1 legend and his family. Yep, he's always trying his best to be there for Michael and his wife Karina, even for their kids Gina Maria and Mick. Apparently, in July of last year, he even watched the F1 season with the legend. He confirmed this in an interview, saying that he watches races with his buddy. And I mean, when you've had years of success together in one team, the bond does turn into something special, right? But this doesn't change the fact that he still misses what they used to have together. Though, of course, he's not the only guy who's close to Michael. After all, I've already mentioned how Jordan's the reason Michael made his career. Yep, it was Eddie who gave him his first chance in F1. This was after the German made his debut for the team in the 1991 Belgian Grand Prix. Yep, Michael was so impressive that Jordan was in awe of him. He even had a target of signing the German for the 1992 campaign. Sadly, things didn't quite work out that way. Instead, he eventually opted to go for Benetton. This is where Michael would go on to win his first title in 1994. I guess the decision didn't impact their friendship. It stayed strong before the accident, and it's still quite strong even after the unfortunate accident. But Mick himself has spoken out about his father's condition. In fact, the 23-year-old said that he and his dad would understand each other in a different way now. So, like he mentioned in the Netflix documentary, he's been thinking a lot about how at this age, they'd have so much more to talk about. In fact, he'd give up everything just for that. It really broke my heart what he said next, y'all. He mentioned that he no longer had all these moments with his dad that all of these other people with parents had. In 2022, over his team radio, Mick said he'd told his dad he was gonna prove the doubters wrong. And yep, this was right after he banked his first F1 points at Silverstone. I mean, sure, he may not have a seat, but I've got high hopes for this kid. And why wouldn't I? He's got this big thing driving him. I mean, what happened to his dad has to be a force motivating him to do better. He brings his dad up a lot, and it's quite clear that he feels strongly about the accident. So even if things haven't been working out lately, I'm with Eddie on this one. I definitely think this kid has a bright career ahead of him. After all, so few people have this kind of reason to do better. Anyway, this was all about Eddie Jordan and Michael Schumacher's health update.